Okay, everyone says live. Welcome back to Worldhoppers, the collaborative YouTube channel where, I haven't done a spiel in a while. Okay, where all AdSense revenue goes to charity, as does revenue from merch sales. None of us are wearing the merch, but it exists.
I don't
Trust us, it's cool.
I've never been sent any merch. I'm not sure.
Who's sending you things? You gotta
buy it.
Go buy it, Jimmy. It's for charity. What's wrong with you?
I thought I was being paid for this appearance. Are you?
You are the charity. You're the charity that the AdSense revenue is going to.
I would have gotten up for the bit, but I'm too tired.
I think everybody here has been on Worldhoppers before, so we can
just to clarify, we all got shirts. You have to pay for it.
It's okay, Jimmy. I don't have one either. We both have to pay for it.
Perfect.
You and me.
I only own 3 shirts, as everyone knows. So.
Okay, maybe we should actually all chip in and get Jimmy Worldhoppers shirt. Okay, but so what we're here to talk about tonight is not fashion. We're here to talk about anticipated adaptations, be they big screen or little screen, of any books, comics, any properties, really. And we can be anticipating them eagerly, or we can be anticipating them anxiously. So really that's all we're talking about tonight. And there's no big plan that I have in terms of an order of appearance or how we're going to do this. So I looked some stuff up. I hope y'all did too. And we can just kind of go around and say how we feel and what we know about what is happening in the not too distant future. Sounds good?
I like that you think I prepare for anything.
I wasn't talking about you, Alex. Well, does anyone have one that they're like dying to talk about? If not, then we can just kind of like go around and name one that we want to talk about.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
We all know what that one is, right?
I'm very.
Hey, Jimmy, have you heard of it? I think it's something that you might be interested in. It seems
That's George
like
Railroad Martin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Railroad.
That is what his name is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for House of the Dragon. I know some people
probably
aren't, but I'm pretty excited. I mean, you're really getting everyone back that was really good in the original show, and you're not getting any D&D. So for me, that's a win.
And one of the cast of Morbius is going to be in it, so you know it's going to be.
Oh, wow. Crossover.
You mean Jared Leto as Morbius? Because that would be weird. So House of the Dragon is a limited series, though, right? It's not like a...
That has not been confirmed yet.
I saw something saying it was a 10-episode limited series.
My opinion is that they're going to do it episodically like American Horror Story, and I think they're going to cover different eras in the Targaryen history, which would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
With that said, they're covering the Dance of Dragons, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the show, that covers a pretty long span of time, so I feel like they would cut... Like, it might feel a little too quick if they did that, but it depends. The fact that it's not all written out gives them a lot of leeway, which I think in this regard, probably a good thing, to be honest.
It's like that happened last time, and I don't know if that was a good thing.
Yeah, but I think the directors that are working on it and the writers, and apparently George has been there hand in hand with them. So I actually...
Because George is like, we're not letting season 8 happen again. I've learned my lesson.
Or George is just like, I will do anything but write wins. So
that's what I was going to say. But,
so originally they did say, right, that it was going to come out in April, and then it got pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's August.
So it's August.
Yep.
But it's for sure August, or is it going to get pushed back again?
It seems for sure that it's going to be August, which is interesting.
Why it was pushed back?
No, I have no idea.
Probably.
Jimmy, you're the
COVID.
expert.
I don't know. Everything gets pushed because of COVID, so let's just say COVID.
I am easily the least knowledgeable about adaptations on this panel.
What about A Song of Ice and Fire related things?
Still, easily the least knowledgeable.
I mean, the promos are saying August 21st, and that seems to be the date that they're sticking with. So,
yeah,
I think it's pretty safe to say that that's what we're getting.
They moved it to celebrate my brother's birthday.
Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do remember.
The most important part is that Raymond is doing the soundtrack again. So, bangers all day.
He is my favorite screen composer.
So
is Fire and Blood only 200 years before A Song of Ice and Fire? I thought it was longer.
300.
3 or 5. I can't remember.
Okay, because IMDb be lying then. saying that
Never.
the story of House Targaryen is set 200 years before Game of Thrones.
Well, it
I
might
thought it
be
was
because
longer.
like Fire and
Advanced
Blood is
maybe.
300 years before, but they might be telling a story that's around the 200 mark.
Fine.
Yeah,
So then when
House
are we
of
going to get the
Dragons.
prequel to the
50.
prequel of House of Dragon?
We're leaving that open for additional
Like, Shack
spin-offs.
of the Dragon.
Fun fact: I'm on IMDb. Good times.
Like,
Seriously
you as a
looking
person?
up
Because you made-
upcoming movie adaptations.
I thought it was because he like made cupcakes for the set of Game of Thrones or something, and so
Probably.
There's also a legitimate actor named after my real name, which I won't say on a video. And his page has stuff about me on it. So he's like legit, and there's this wrestling garbage. It's so funny.
I mean, I see Jimmy Nuts on Beyond Wrestling. Is that you?
Yeah, that was in Tennessee,
There you go.
2014 or something. 15, I can't remember.
is that like Beyond Beef? So it's like fake wrestling.
I broke my jaw on that show.
Mm.
Good times.
That's not cool.
Not fun.
Was it filmed?
Yeah, but I have
The
no
important
idea if they ever released it. I just remember I couldn't eat barbecue after, and I was very upset.
That is the number one thing I would also be upset
Unfortunate.
about
I was
after.
like, I feel like
Well,
you
I
couldn't
only-
eat anything, not just barbecue.
Well, I was just like sucking out of a straw. It was awful. Not good. Not fun. My jaw still clicks. I don't know what we're talking about. I'm sorry. I somehow made this about me. I'm gonna shut up.
I tricked you into coming to this by calling anticipated adaptations, but we're here just to talk about you.
Hmm.
Your medical
And
history.
I'd rather.
Well, anything else about House of the Dragon that we know or want to say or that we're excited about?
I'm sure we're going to get to see a lot of terrible Targaryens because they're all monsters.
I thought she meant like terribly portrayed, like that the show was doing a bad job with Targaryens, and I was like,
I'm-
wow,
I'm not
already.
I'm not going that hard on it already. No, I'm excited for it because, especially if it is a limited series, because I feel like HBO kind of does this very well.
Yeah.
And rather than stretch the content too thin, like I would be happy to see just like a fantastic 10 episodes and just be done and just leave it
Move on to
alone.
Drunken Egg.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with television is that a lot of times stuff just hangs around too long. You know.
Yep.
I always wish I could just be like, look, if you make something good that's shorter, then people are going to tell their friends to keep watching it, and it's going to keep being watched throughout time.
Mhm.
But when you drag it out until everyone hates it, then you have this sour taste in your mouth. And I just wish more people were on board with the like limited.
Less is more.
Less is more.
That's not
Especially if
always
you
true,
know-
obviously, but I feel like English shows and European shows are often a lot better at like having a set length of these are the number of episodes we're doing and nothing else. And I feel like it's more common that American shows have already a longer season to begin with and then keep going.
Well, that's because they never know what's going to work. So once it works, they go, well, we have to keep doing it until it's dead,
And then make 10 copies
and
of it.
then we
on
will
different
remake
networks.
it in 10 years.
So many shows would be better if they had like an actual planned number of seasons, like 3 or 4, and it can actually do an arc.
Mhm.
Because I was watching a show and like at some point they keep recycling things because you can't let your character succeed too much or the show would end. And then it gets tiring.
I also feel bad for like the writers and showrunners because they don't know how much longer they're going to be writing for. So they have to like keep things like open enough, but also give you satisfying some conclusions. Cause like they're trying to like thread that needle of like, we want to tell you a story that has arcs, but like leave it open because we don't know if we're getting canceled or if we're going to get 10 more seasons. So like there's like definitely shows that I mean, like I love the show Fringe, but like they abruptly were going to get canceled, and you could tell they had been setting up some like longer running like mystery plots. So the last season was just bananas, and it was half the length of a normal season. And I think they just fast forwarded through like every single crazy idea that they had planned for the future in like 10 episodes, and it is insane. But like that's what happens when you don't plan a number of seasons, number of episodes, and let your writers write for that.
Yeah.
So that's what not to do. Moving on to other anticipated adaptations. Do you have one for us, Hillary?
I mean, I do, but I don't think anyone cares about it is the problem.
But it's not anticipated.
Well, anybody 3 Body Problem? Anyone?
I have
excited
that.
that's
I
gonna be
wrote
Netflix?
that on my.
Isn't
little
D&D
research
doing that?
list.
I don't know.
D&D from Game of Thrones is doing it.
Here's the thing.
No.
I actually have a lot of trepidation about this. Now, I've only read the first 2, but I obviously like 3 Body Problem is probably going to be my book of the year. Like I really, really, really loved it. And so This is the problem I have with people adapting books like Three Body Problem. Is it reminds me a lot of The Giver. Did you guys read The Giver and then watch The Giver adaptation? Anybody?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately,
we're watching the adaptation.
Unfortunately, watching the adaptation because The Giver. I mean, I had to read it in school, so I don't know, but it's a very quiet book with a lot of ideas, and you get people who adapt these and be like, well, nobody's going to watch a movie that's thoughtful and quiet, so we better put explosions in it. And they did, and it was awful because
or you take like the most basic theme of it and make that what the entire thing is about and miss the entire point of the book.
And
or like The Giver, they tried to make it because Hunger Games was really successful. They're like, all right, what other like young adult book can we make the next Hunger Games? So they tried to Hunger Games rise The Giver.
Yeah, there's like some quote about like trying to copy something without understanding why it was successful. And when I see the Three Body Problem as this like if you've read it, it's really not a character book. Like the characters are kind of flat because that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is to explore like really big ideas. And it's not a very action-packed book.
That's
like,
a lot of sci-fi.
It is a lot of sci-fi, and they're amazing when they're like that. But so I get this nervous thing, like you're adapting this into a TV show, not even a movie. Like what are you going to do with this? And are you going to honor the source material? Like, Arrival was a movie that did that actually very well. If you guys have read the short story, Arrival is based on stories of your life.
But Denis Villeneuve likes to like do a ton of long, slow, uneventful shots. So like if he's headlining it, then you're gonna be good to go.
Like,
and it was. He wasn't afraid to just like let this be a long, slow, not very action movie, which was what the original thing was, and it actually gets across like the original messaging so well. And so I'm just like I'm trepid about it. Like I'm gonna give it a try. But I don't have a lot of hope that they're going to have the nuance to, or more like the self-restraint to like.
Well, that's where also like I always, I can't always, you don't know who to blame because, like writers and directors might have a vision for it, but then the studio is like, we want this to be a blockbuster. You put some explosions in it and they're like, I don't wanna, but I have to. So like, you never know who is the reason behind what is what. But speaking of
blame studios a lot though, because I do think studios like to be like, well, I just want to copy a formula and make so much money.
Well, they want like a surefire investment. Like they want to know that they're going to get a return on this money. And oftentimes by trying to do that is when you're guaranteed to not have a return.
Yeah.
Is by not taking the risks, ironically. But when you said what you said about people not understanding what it is that made something successful and then trying to copy it. So we were just talking about House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, but so many shows don't understand what made Game of Thrones popular and have tried to copy it. So like another adaptation.
Killing, right? Yeah. Isn't that what we have to do?
Absolutely. Game
like,
of Thrones
Wheel of Time and Rings of Power.
That's what Wheel of Time started out as. Just kill everything. Lots
and Rings of Power
everywhere.
is looking like it's gonna be like that. So
who has high hopes for Rings of Power? Raise your hand.
Klaus has high hopes for Rings of Power.
You do? You think it's going to be great? Like I'm excited for it, but I'm already Wheel of Timing my heart. Like I'm already prepping myself for how this is going to go down.
I mean, Tolkien was a horrible writer and they don't have a book to adapt from Tolkien, so I think it's going to be an awesome show. That's not what I think. I think it's going to be it's going to be the height of my career as a YouTuber, and the low light is my life as a Tolkien fan. But I don't have any hope. I'm just like.
I mean, the one in some ways, isn't it an advantage though that they don't have a book? Because like maybe there will be this small hope that we won't be like dying inside at everything they've done, or it could be worse. I'm not sure.
I think it's gonna be worse simply because like, and I'm not even like a big Third Age person. Like I've read the trilogy book a million times, but all the stuff that they're doing, the one line that always sticks out is the showrunner or director, whoever it was, that said like, we want to tell the story that he never told. And I'm like, what? You don't need to do that though. Like you could just tell the stories that he wrote. and not try to think that you're better than him and take like all of his characters and world and then make something up. Like,
well, I think we're gonna find when we watch
we
watch Rings of Power. I think we will all agree that this is the story that Tolkien did not tell.
That's very true.
And there might be a reason he didn't tell it.
Yeah.
I'm actually not as pessimistic as all of you about it. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really care so much. Like I'm just waiting to see what happens. I didn't even watch the full teaser all the way because I'm just like,
that's why you're not pessimistic, because you didn't watch the full teaser. You
had watched I never watched teasers either.
Well, hold
I figure I might as well not get upset before I need to.
So yeah, I agree with that. Wheel of Time changed the way that I feel about pre-release footage, because first off, the 10-second clip and then everyone examining the costumes and it's like, just come on. It's probably not even fully colorized, blah, 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 right? And for all the faults, it seems like Wheel of Time did some things correctly that I think a lot of people thought they did incorrectly during the teasers. So I'm kind of just done with teasers and minute trailers. Like, I just want to see the product, like,
yeah,
that's the only way.
Your point on that reminds me of The Witcher as well. Like, before that came out, they had the makeup test and everyone's like, this looks awful.
I remember that.
And then it came out and it was pretty good.
So like, if you have promotional stills, like, they're gonna look probably not great. Like, it's not a finished product. If you take a shot of a guy walking through the woods, it probably looks kind of dumb. Like, that's not what it's going to look like. But my issue, like, because I think the Lord of the Rings show, it has a crazy budget. Like, it's going to look good. Yeah. That's not my problem.
Except the teaser looks more like a video game than a movie. Like, it looks so
okay.
fake.
Well, when you have young Galadriel like ice climbing at the side of a mountain, like, it's going to look pretty silly.
Wait. Let me just say something though, because I did the math on this. Like, I actually have a video where I went in and did a regression analysis on budget versus reception. You invited me, so I don't like this. You invited.
I'm
me.
impressed. I'm impressed.
And, I'm like, this is the board meeting where the accounts department just decided to contribute.
Yes, or HR. No one likes HR either. After a certain point, it turns out budget really has no indicator on quality. Like, obviously, for a fantasy adaptation, you do need a certain budget to make things look like they need to look. But after that, I do feel like it's become a competition to be like, look at how much we're throwing at this. Game of Thrones only had 10 million per episode, and we have 20 million per episode. What can you imagine? And it's like, well, it's not going to fix crappy writing.
For sure.
Season 1 of Game of Thrones is a perfect example. It didn't have the biggest budget.
Exactly.
And it was awesome. The way they skipped the battle.
That's what will be interesting though, because if you have if you have a huge budget and you're going to do a lot of like CGI and epic battles and stuff, like the Hobbit trilogy, for example, looks terrible in my opinion. Like this, because when you have the budget, where does it go? Because like Marvel movies, like the CGI looks good. They're paying massive budget to the cast because they're A-list actors. This Lord of the Rings adaptation does not have a bunch of like known names. So where is most of the budget going to go? Hopefully to really good writers and hopefully to good, set building, set design, special effects. Because if it looks cheap, that's going to at least for me, it will immediately take me out of it and be like, this just looks like crap. Like that.
But I feel like I haven't crunched the numbers on this like Hillary has, but I feel like this is a feel fact that most of the time when you think of movies and shows that have been these like wild successes and that become like really beloved, they're the ones that had to fight for every dollar they got and like, have a lot of practical effects and like stretched every dollar to make use of it in as clever a way as possible. And like those are the projects that really end up being great, and the ones that have tons of money thrown at them by a studio.
Well, you start looking for reasons to spend the money.
Yeah, that too.
And we have plenty of examples. You can look at the original Star Wars trilogy to the prequels, or you could look at even just the original Lord of the Rings to the Hobbit trilogy of money not making something look better. And I think a lot of that, like, there is a point where CGI, like, we may rely too much on CGI and forget that practical costuming and set building is what makes CGI shine.
It's the reason Lord of the Rings still looks good today.
And even we watched the original Star Wars, and like, I actually don't like the remastered versions. I think it makes them look cheaper. Like, the original ones still hold up pretty well. Like, I mean, I know, I get it. It was the 70s, but
they're not meant to be seen in 4K.
Yeah, well, for sure.
It shows you too much.
For sure. But as far, I mean, I would take that over, overly CGI'd. It just, there's an uncanny valley that we haven't gotten over yet.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what you do with it though, because like the prequels, George Lucas was just like, there's some blank space here. Like, let's just put a dinosaur in there. Like, let's just put everything on the screen at one time. It's like, okay,
not
like,
smart. I mean, yeah, CGI is great. Like you said, the Marvel movies I think make very good use of CGI. There's never a point when I'm watching the Marvel movie in general where I'm like, oh, that looks so fake. I don't remember ever thinking that. And they obviously use just like a ton of CGI. Yeah. But they figured
But to your earlier point about like usually blaming the studio, like if you look at Pirates of the Caribbean, they had to fight the studio like pretty much up until the release to have Johnny Depp play the character the way that he wanted to. And they were like, no, they're going to shut this down. No. And they were like, they had to fight for that. And then everyone loved it. And then the studio was like, oh, more of that, until they killed it dead. So like the studio was like wrong about it the first one and then wrong about the ones after.
Well, it's like all comes back to that thing of not understanding what made it good. It's just blind copying, blind pushing something forward without truly understanding what made it successful. And it's just plaguing everything.
So let me ask you this. I mean, is it easy to pick out why something's so successful? Because I think it's actually really hard.
I think it depends on who you ask. You're going to get a different answer every time.
Well, I think the thing is, though, that like studios want to be able to reduce it to a formula that they can then invest in. And that's the thing. Like, it's not easy to figure out why something worked or when something will, but it's almost guaranteed that if you're doing it on a formula, then you're guaranteeing it will not be. So your best bet is to take a bunch of risks.
Yeah, and it's because they're massive companies where they have to take it in front of a board and justify the reason why they're spending this money to the shareholder. You know, it's just like, this is an art. It's not art anymore when it becomes that.
And I think copying, here's the other issue is like, I'm sure all the Pirates movies made a ton of money for the studios, whether or not they got good or bad reception. So from a studio's bottom dollar, what do they care about art? You know what I mean? In the end,
every Disney movie that comes out makes $1 billion.
That's why all those live action remakes are still happening, because they always make a ton of money.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Their anticipated book to screen adaptation is Disney's Peter Pan.
Well, isn't there a Pinocchio?
Peter Pan coming?
Yeah,
I'm reading Peter Pan right now. I've never read the original.
There's a Pinocchio adaptation coming out, and isn't it Benicio del Toro? Is it going to be
Guillermo del Toro?
Wow, Pinocchio terrified me as a child. I can't even imagine how I'm going to feel about a live action.
There's 2 Pinocchios coming out. Guillermo del Toro is doing a stop action one, and Disney's doing a live action one.
Yep.
Just gotta keep going back to the well.
I mean, Guillermo del Toro, that I'm excited to see.
That one, yes, I want to see. The Disney one, I don't know.
So back to the 3-body problem. What bothers me about that is all I know about D&D is what they did to Game of Thrones once they had to like do things on their own. And it's also kind of weird to me that like they have a bunch of Game of Thrones actors in this Netflix adaptation. And also I'm not like super impressed with Netflix shows in general. Yeah. Outside of like, I like The Witcher.
Shadow and Bone.
I don't know. Ozark's pretty good. I like Ozark.
But I'm talking about like fantasy adaptations kind of
Shadow and Bone.
I don't watch Shadow and Bone. I don't care.
I know it's not fantasy, but they throw everything at the wall.
But didn't D&D do a good job at adapting? So they can't write, but maybe they can adapt.
Well, I would agree with you, Hillary. Actually, Bookborn, sorry.
I've told you this has passed.
I know.
The ship has sailed, no matter how hard I've tried.
I know, but I try still to keep kayfabe. But so the one thing about, and I'm not making a statement about 3-Body Problem because I haven't read it, but like George writes his stuff very episodically, and it's actually really easy to adapt to television because of his history in television. A lot of the dialogue is directly lifted from the books. Now, that's not to say that D&D didn't do a knock-up job in the first few seasons, because they added a scene between Robert and Cersei that is one of the best in the entire show.
Yep.
So it's hard for me to say that they're not good at some aspects of adapting, but I do wonder when it comes down to writing and making a very well-crafted scene, like, is it going to translate as well? I don't know. I've never read it.
Because maybe George did a lot of that work in the book for them.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah. Well, in like Wheel of Time, for instance, they threw out almost all the dialogue from the books. I mean, they kind of.
That was one of the biggest reasons it was terrible, because they Yeah. Like what age are we in? Is it 2022 or is it whenever Wheel of Time was supposed to happen? Because it was
confusing when they were using very modern swearing.
Yeah.
In a setting that is so non-Earth. Yeah, it just, I don't know.
Rand, that slapped, yo. And you're just like,
that might have made it better. You got to push it one way or the other. You know what I mean? You go for it. You say, Rand, that slapped, yo. I might be on board, you know? I might be there. Yeah, that's a good point, Jimmy. And it's tough because I would say some of the dialogue is pretty wooden in Three Body Problem. Again, it's not really a character story.
It's sci-fi. Well, it's like thought-provoking sci-fi. That's the dialogue and the characters are basically there to just like
move a plot, like move an idea. Yeah. It's their representations of ideas or ideals mostly, you know? And I did think Ken Liu as a translator did a little better than the second translator at kind of cleaning up some of that. But I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm trepid about it, and I don't know. It could go either way. I think. I'm not sure.
I'll watch
Alex, have you read the whole trilogy?
I haven't read any of it.
Oh, you haven't read any of it.
I just know from like the kind of sci-fi that it sounds like it is, in that it's not like so. A lot of like Michael Crichton stuff got adapted because they wanted to just like make everything that he did. And if you read something like Andromeda Strain, like you could see how they made a movie out of it.
Or Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But like not most sci-fi, but like there's particular types of sci-fi where the characters are completely forgettable, and it's not a character-driven book. It's not a fantasy story. You're not following a chosen one. A lot of sci-fi is thought-provoking. It makes you think. It focuses on themes and ideas and like larger problems, and that's hard to necessarily adapt and put into like a visual storytelling of it,
unless you hire Denis Villeneuve.
Sure, but then you'll hear people say, "Oh, Dune was boring." Shut up.
They are wrong.
You have like the Michael Crichton, Andy Weir is another sci-fi that I love, but is very easily understandable.
Yeah, like
they're
The
going to
Martian
do a Project Hail Mary,
straight up,
and they're going to do Project
story.
Hail Mary. Great, it's going to make a fantastic movie, you know. But then you have like Ted Chiang, which Villanueva did great, but you read his stuff and it really isn't about the characters at all. It's completely about the ideas. And
well, like, I was really surprised to learn that movie that Chris Pratt is in is based on the Forever War, because I read the Forever War and I didn't like it that much. But that's another book where like it's more about the concepts and that's the thing that is made possible.
What movie was this?
It's called the Tomorrow War? Yeah, that's what the movie is.
I did
it's based
not
on
like
the Forever War.
I watched
But I mean, like when I saw the trailers for it, I was just like some wild action movie. And I was like, I don't care about this. But then I heard it was based on the Forever War. And I was like, in what way is any of what I just saw supposed to be the Forever War?
As much as horror movies are based on true events.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I said it's what? Yeah.
What do you're telling me the Texas Chainsaw Massacre didn't happen?
They said, look, put Chris Pratt in it, have him shoot a bunch of CGI aliens. Everyone's gonna watch it because everybody loves Chris Pratt. Like that's what happened.
Mildly confused Chris Pratt.
Whole thing is reminding me of another upcoming adaptation, which is Dawn by Octavia Butler, because that is such a weird sci-fi story that when I heard that they were going to be adapting it immediately, it was just all of that trepidation. So I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're adapting two N.K. Jemisin's. I think they're adapting both the Inheritance Cycle and the Broken Earth trilogy, and both of those, I mean, like they're great, but like that could be.
I'm not supposed to swear on the channel. They're gonna f it up real bad.
The Broken Earth, I could see how it could be made into a movie.
I feel like a lot of, like you said, a lot of it's like internal ideas, and like a lot of it, like the stuff that goes on is very like goes on inside of the character's experience. Like I don't know how you would visualize that.
Will be, how do I say this? The 5th season has something in it that I think will be very hard to portray in a meaningful way, as it is meaningful in that novel. And I don't think that gives anything away. But if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. And that'll be interesting. Have we all read the 5th season?
Yes.
Yes.
I have not yet.
I haven't yet.
It's on my list.
It's rather good.
I have read the Inheritance trilogy, though, the other, which
I've read the first of The Inheritance, and that one is like, I mean, it's great, and it has a lot of like visual things happening, but it's visual in the same way Lainey Taylor is, where I'm like, that could be cool, but it could easily be super stupid if you make it like the CGI bad or the like, if it could look really bad.
My fear with that one is they're gonna try to, for lack of a better word, and I don't mean this to be insulting because I read YA as well, but try to like YA-ify it and make it very much about the romance and the angst and the drama, which is a huge part of that story,
but not in that way.
It's not exactly supposed to be like an idealized relationship, and
it's also just a lot more conceptual than that.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway. It could be great. I hope it's great.
It's what every book reader is like. I hope it's great, and was said with zero confidence.
I feel like the two best case scenarios. One is that it's super loyal, done by somebody who loves the material and like does it, like Lord of the Rings, like Dune, where they're really trying to make this like page for page come to life, or the first season of Game of Thrones. Or alternatively, if it's like a really good movie or show by itself that feels like has nothing to do with the source material because they've just gone a totally different way with it, where it's like inspired by it, and you're like, okay, like I don't think of these as the same thing, because if I did, that would drive me crazy, but it is on its own an entertaining, fun, interesting thing that they just did, like that's also good. But
I mean, that's what they did with the Bourne Identity. That's probably a niche. I doubt anyone has read the Bourne Identity, but it is wildly different from the movies. I read it in high school, and it is very different. They took the same concept and made it different, but they're both good on their own. Like you said, like the movie's so wildly different that you're like, oh, I can totally enjoy this separately from like.
Is Matt Damon not in the books?
Oh no, he absolutely is in the books. Why would anyone read the books if Matt Damon wasn't the central character?
Right. Good to know.
Yeah.
So moving on to other adaptations, who's excited for Sandman, which could be good and could be terrible?
I haven't read it, so I don't know. But it's another Netflix adaptation.
Yeah, but it's live action.
Well, okay, so what do you think about that?
I think it could be good, and I think it could be terrible. I mean, Charles Dance is in it, so.
Wow, Liana, I didn't know those were the two.
Well, I think we can wrap it up here.
I really think, though, that, like, there's no middle ground. Like, it's either going to be brilliant or it's going to be garbage. I don't think there's any chance of it being like, it's fine. Like, it'll either blow us away or it will be awful. Like, those are the only options.
The thing it does have going for it is that Neil Gaiman has been through many adaptations already, and some of them are less good, but a lot of them are pretty good or are successful. Not that he's the end all be all, because obviously he's not the one actually creating the show.
Well, he has also written for television a lot, so like, and I think he is involved.
How involved? Yeah, how involved is he though? Because I feel like he has said himself, like he has had different levels of involvement, and sometimes he doesn't want any involvement, and sometimes he does want involvement. So
I think he is involved.
He's involved.
I've always heard that he's very loose with his like grip on it, though. Like he's totally down for changes. It doesn't bother him at all.
I mean, I think he cares about it being good. He doesn't care about it being super loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I think he's on record as liking the Stardust movie better than the book.
He is. Because I did that for my research. He's like, they did a better job. Like he's a pretty cool dude in that way. He's like, yeah, you can make it better. Do it. Yeah.
Klaus, what are you excited for? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, Rings of Power, totally. The only thing I'm excited about is maybe the animated Lord of the Rings thing that comes out next year, the one with the hero.
Yeah.
I think that has a chance because it's not live action, that it could actually be like cool, maybe. Unlikely, but it could be. Redwall, I think I'm excited about because I just have no emotional baggage there. If it sucks, I'm just like, okay, it sucks. I'm not gonna watch it then. But other shows, like my entire mind is filled up with Rings of Power, and that is not a good place to be.
And you've got so much time, Klaus. Like it's so much time until it comes out. How are you gonna survive?
Yeah.
Was it September?
The fun thing is though, it's I think it's out on like the 2nd of September because that's Tolkien's birthday, and that's like 1 or 2 weeks after House of the Dragon. So
yeah,
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that release date for House of the Dragon was odd. because I mean, even if people feel a certain way about it, like, what if Rings of Power is just the greatest thing that's ever happened to television?
Yeah.
Is
Then
it gonna
no one
happen?
will
Put
watch
that
House of
out into
Dragon.
the universe, right?
Now, it also could be very bad for Rings of Power because this is a seasoned team that has done this type of show before. They've learned from mistakes. I mean, it's HBO as well. HBO slaps. Like, it's just the best. So Rings of Power could also look really bad week to week compared to
So I mean, it kind of depends on because the release schedule. HBO just drops the whole season, right? Or are they doing week to week?
They do week to week.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're gonna have 2 episodes out of 10, and the Ring of Power is gonna start, and you have 3 episodes day 1, right? Because that's what Amazon does. They do 3, and then they'll do like 7 weekly. So you're gonna have both of them running at the same time.
It's like direct competition. It's really interesting. Now they could both exist as well. Like I you're right. There's no way. There's no way. I think that it's big enough now, and people are kind of in camps, right? Like we'll watch it all, but like there are people who are just not aware of these things. The biggest wake up call I had was there is someone that I go to jiu-jitsu with that has read The Wheel of Time. Like I don't know, like 8 times. Like it's his favorite series. He doesn't read. He just reads that. Like that's it. And I was like, dude, are you excited for The Wheel of Time? She was like,
I can't stand people like that.
It's like, hey, listen, it is what I don't like the guy. To be honest, hopefully, just if you're watching this, I don't like you.
This is not a Wheel of Time themed episode, so we won't be watching it.
Yeah, it'll be fine. But this is 2 months before the show comes out on Amazon. I go, dude, stoked? And he's like, about what? And I'm like, the Wheel of Time show. He's like, there's a Wheel of Time show? And I was like, oh, no one cares. It's just us.
I'm pretty sure, according to Amazon, the entire world stopped because it cared only about Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's what I heard.
he also then did watch it and then cursed me for telling him about it and said it was the worst thing he's ever.
I was going to say I would be
ask
willing
for
to
the
bet,
ending. Yeah, I was going to ask for the ending of that story.
He
the
was
kind of Wheel of Time reader that reads it annually is going to tear that show to
He
pieces.
was not a fan.
Yeah. I'm surprised he made it through it. I'm surprised it didn't turn off after 10
I think he quit episode, I want to say 5. So he didn't finish it.
Freaking Leslie. Leslie was like done during the prologue, like introduction to the show. She was just like, I'm done. This is bad.
I stopped on 4. I tapped out.
I watched it week to week with my wife because we
I
started
watched
out
it week to week with my brother.
Like,
I personally didn't watch it.
I did not watch it. Yeah. I saw the reviews and like I think I'm good on this one.
There's so much good TV too.
I feel like it started out really bad, and I was like, "What is actually happening to my eyes right now?" And then like episodes 2 and 3 was just like, "Okay, this is kind of good," and then it was like episode 4. I was like, "All right, this is pretty good." I was like, by then I was like, "This is not Wheel of Time, so that's fine." But it's a pretty good show. And then it was just like, it just went straight down. I was like, why is any of this happening?
Is that on Amazon as well?
Is
that Amazon?
Yeah, it is Amazon.
Yeah.
I have to defend Amazon a little bit, though. They did a nice job with Man in the High Castle, in my opinion.
And Good Omens.
Well, Good
Omens was incredible.
People like The Boys, Invincibles.
The Boys.
I love The Boys.
It's not necessarily
Their
that
shows are either really good or really bad.
On my list tonight, I have Good Omens season 2 because they have started production on that. And
I'm very interested in that because Good Omens is such like when you read that, having read a lot of both Pratchett and Gaiman, like it is such a marriage. Like it is just a shocking marriage of their ideals, and it does. I think Gaiman tries really hard to honor Pratchett. But I do wonder what the tone is going to be without him actually there. I just think it's very hard.
But they did apparently start, the two of them, Pratchett when he was alive and Gaiman, had like been workshopping ideas for a sequel. So hopefully like there's enough of
I think the ideas are there, but like Pratchett's writing is just so witty in a way that I just rarely see. Like I do. I think he's a genius and people can disagree, but I really just do find him to be a genius. And so I'll be interested if it has that same sort of thing, but I have high hopes for it just because the first season was so good. And I do think Gaiman's going to try like really hard.
You can just go watch The Watch. Wasn't that like a great adaptation of...
Oh my gosh. I mean, I haven't watched it, but I looked up just the Wikipedia because I was like, oh, there's the one. And I read a Wikipedia paragraph about it. And it almost broke my heart. And I didn't even watch a second of that show. I was just
But
like,
the Hogfather adaptation is really good. So you should watch Hogfather.
But I'm not over it. Did you see how they cast Lady Sybil in the Watch show?
Mhm.
Like,
did you see how they did everything in the show?
no, I'm not over the Lady Sybil slander. Gosh.
I haven't watched any of it, but I'm just offended.
Oh, I haven't watched any of it. This is from a single promotional photo.
What did we say about promotional photos and judging shows based on promotional photos?
You did agree with me. You did agree with me.
I did, except that Lady Sybil is supposed to be like an older, like overweight dragon cat lady. And she is like a very young, thin model looking character. I am not talking about makeup. I am talking about the essence of who Lady Sybil was as a character.
Well,
yeah, she was hilarious in the book.
She was hilarious. She's great.
Like, who's this crazy cat dragon lady?
Yeah, exactly. And then they cast her as like a model. Which
do I need to read Guards? Is that do I need
to
do that?
Because it's fantastic.
Don't
I don't think you're allowed.
Leanna, you're not allowed to talk about Guards.
If you're in the top left of this box,
I'm just trying to say you can't be friends with Alan if you haven't read Guards.
I personally think that Discworld has been really great in publication order, which is how I'm reading it. But people do just start with Guards. So
I started with Mort.
Yeah,
I started with Hogfather.
Interesting.
It was
I started
really
with
good.
The Color of Magic, which I loved, and a lot of people don't apparently. But whatever. Anyway, whatever.
Did anyone else know? Because I learned when I was looking up adaptations for this that there's going to be a new Interview with a Vampire.
I saw that.
Yeah. That's risky.
Is it though? Because was the first one like great?
The first one is great.
Love it.
I love it.
Though, right? Yeah, a lot of
Tom Cruise is very convincing as a vampire.
Well, yes. I could see him.
Tom Cruise is actually really good as Lestat. It's so not Tom Cruise of him to be in that movie the way he is. He really goes for it.
I don't know. Do people still care about vampires?
They're having a comeback, I think.
Morbius. Are they having a renaissance? Stop.
Oh, Morbius. Yeah.
Stop.
Have you guys seen Twilight?
No, what? What is that?
Was that based on a book? I think
I've actually never seen it. I don't think I've seen it. I can't remember.
I've read them. But I tried to watch the first movie.
So
Leanna knows this. I get really bad secondhand embarrassment very easily. And I got so much secondhand embarrassment. Like, I literally didn't make it more than 30 minutes into the movie.
Do you struggle when you watch my channel?
No, you guys are all fine for the most part.
If you want really bad secondhand embarrassment, keep going in the series. Because, boy, does it do some things.
Well, no, I read them. I read them in high school.
I'm talking about the
friends
movies.
were reading them. Oh, okay. Well, the books were bad enough. I got secondhand embarrassment in the books bad enough, but reading is better than seeing for embarrassment. And no, I
the
don't
best thing is all the YouTube content of people watching those
fantastic.
movies.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing to come out of it, though, because I was dating my then girlfriend, now wife at the time, who made me take her to all the midnight showings of these garbage movies. And I was surrounded by like middle-aged women just swooning over freaking Taylor Lautner
and
like,
Batman
supposed to be playing like a 16.
Taylor Lautner was a Chad though,
and when he took his shirt off, the entire like theater around.
It's like going to see
out.
Rocky Horror Picture Show at midnight.
Oh,
listen,
yeah,
I just thought of him. I started sweating.
Okay,
Dude's a Chad. Come on,
not anymore. He's not. But
is he not?
Anyway, no,
he's not a Chad.
No. He talked about. I actually watched an interview with him. Totally random now, but after
because you are actually his biggest fan.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, sounds like you were really forced to go to these movies.
No, because I was interested in what happened to him. Because in the first movie, he was just like this like goofy looking dude, and they were gonna recast him in the second movie because they wanted him to be shredded. So he went on like this crazy diet, got super ripped, and then like made it through all the videos or all the movies, and then just like completely like boomeranged back to like not working out and just eating a bunch. And then like the next time I saw him was just like, that doesn't look like you at all, because he got really big and like out of shape, and then was talking about how he was just like he hated being that healthy.
Yeah,
and I was just like, yeah, it's got to be insane to keep up with.
Honestly, he looks like he just loves shotgunning beers. Like he says that.
I'm gonna look him up now.
He looks totally
Looks like
different.
George
It's
R. R.
wild.
But Worldhoppers
gotta
does not
know.
condone body shaming anyone for any reason.
But no, like if you listen to anybody talk
Wow.
about like training that hard for a movie role, like Zac Efron getting
Yeah.
And they're all on
completely
drugs.
shredded.
I
for,
mean,
like,
I think he
blood.
still looks totally fine. He just looks more like a normal person,
Right, but like
versus
He's
like
not a Chad.
ripped every day.
I was just saying he's not a Chad.
He's not a Chad.
He looks good. I
Versus
mean,
a
that's
werewolf
it's
fantasy.
unhealthy. I think, especially when how young those.
Did I mention they're
actors
all on
start doing
drugs? They're all on drugs. I,
Well,
forgot-
yeah.
I didn't know if I mentioned that 3 times yet. I just want to.
that. Yeah.
You have
I
to
was
be.
okay, like,
Again,
but
more
so
unhealthy.
since we're talking about those movies in that cast, I was quite surprised when in Batman, when Robert Pattinson is shirtless. I was like, okay, so I guess it's literally all the suit because he's not actually very buff, even as Batman. So like when he's wearing the suit, he's like, and then as soon as he takes it off, he's like stick figure Robert Pattinson, and I'm like, okay.
It's part of the
gotta
disguise, so
wear the
people won't
suit.
know he's Batman.
But I'm like, he's also like physically strong to like fight. In theory,
It's called a movie, Leanna.
Batman is real.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually a biographical film.
So has he just been passed over for a generation, like 18 different actors, just
Yeah.
retelling the tale of the real Batman?
He
Yep.
decided to finally, set the record straight and like have the movie. be
Right,
made
yeah,
with the
this
real
is
Batman.
Final. This is the one.
You mean it's not the Adam West Batman running around in tights with bombs over his head?
What's wrong with running around tights?
Nothing. Star of the 2014 hit wrestling show. Jimmy.
I liked when we bring it back. That's nice.
Full circle. So there are some adaptations coming up that are not SFF, like Pachinko, Daisy Jones and the Six, Conversations with Friends, Persuasion.
I don't know any of these.
I don't either.
I mean, I read
Yeah,
Daisy Jones and the Six. I think her other book, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, is also being adapted.
my wife-
That was like just announced though, whereas Daisy Jones I think has already been filming.
I prefer Daisy Jones vastly to The Seven Husbands, which I know is a very unpopular opinion. But
What genre are these books we're speaking of?
My
Lit
wife
fiction,
likes them.
lit fic.
The genre is my wife.
She really likes that. She likes what's her name? Colleen Hoover and whoever wrote Evelyn Hugo or whatever.
I guess all of these would be
Jenkins Reid.
Taylor
I only
Jenkins
read her
Reid.
book of the month, but I only get her books through book of the month. That's the only reason I read them.
Daisy Jones and the Six is about like a rock band like in the 70s and about how they came together and then fell apart, and it's like told from the present and like they're interviewing the former band members
it's
about like
told
what happened to
all
you guys.
It's Fleetwood
It's told
Mac,
all
but
through
not
interviews.
Fleetwood
So
Mac.
like people either really love that format or absolutely hate it. I'm kind of down for like an unusual telling style. I will say, like, do you think the movie is going to try to tell the story all through interviews, or are they just going to tell the story? Because I
don't know about that, but what I do know is that
Yeah.
because in a book you can just talk about how, and this song, as soon as everybody heard it, it just became a
Yes.
sensation. So they have to write a song that we are all going to watch this movie or this show and be like, yes, that song is a sensation. Because if it's not, the story doesn't work.
I think that all the time, because a movie I loved growing up was That Thing You Do.
I was about to. It's so good.
It's such a good movie.
That thing you do is amazing.
It's an amazing movie. And Tom Hanks talked a lot about the burden of writing a song that
And it's actually like incredibly
It
catchy.
is. He's like, it had to be catchy, it had to be good, and it also couldn't get annoying because you were going to hear it over and over again for an hour and a half.
Mhm.
And that's going to hinge on that. And also, I wonder if the story is that original without the formatting. And so I wonder how they're going to, if they take out that formatting, if it's going to be a very interesting story. I don't know.
Well, they have a good cast lined up for it, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it.
But it's the music, it's really good. Because like Almost Famous, I really love that movie. But if like they wrote really good music for it, where like I could really believe this was a real band from that era. And if the music had not been good, that movie wouldn't work.
Has anyone heard anything new about the Greenbone saga adaptation?
I mean, just that
Nothing
they
new.
have it, but I don't think they've done anything. Like, I don't think they've started production.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna hear a ton of like so and so is going to do an adaptation, and then we won't hear anything for like years.
Like
Because there's all
Peacock
kinds
snapped
of
up
things picked
Greenbone.
up.
I think Peacock snapped up Greenbone like shortly after Jade City came out. Like they immediately were like,
Yeah.
yep.
Did?
Yeah.
And the thing
Well,
is,
then
that
I
would be a
watch it.
very, I think, like an easy movie to adapt. I mean, they're not like they will do it well necessarily, but it could be done. Like that's a book you read and think, I could see this on screen.
It's like low magic, very action packed. Like it's very cinematic even when you read it.
Sure.
Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell is getting adaptation, and I'm actually at first I was like, that's gonna be bad. Arthurian, it's gonna be bad, but it's actually from the people who are Bad Wolf, which got acquired by Sony, but they did His Dark Materials on HBO, which I think is like a pretty decent adaptation. But they've also done Doctor Who, Da Vinci's Demons, The Night of, which was phenomenal, A Discovery of Witches, and it looks like they're also co-producing the new Doctor Who. So the Warlord Chronicles seem to be in okay hands. Everyone was saying it was going to be on Epics. That's not true. People rescinded that. So it could end up on a major network, I mean, it'd be cool. I don't see it going to HBO, but maybe, I don't know. At first I was like completely like, that's going to suck. And now I'm like seeing who's behind it. I'm like, might be good.
How much did Cornwell have to do with The Last Kingdom when they
I would love
adapted
to
it?
know, because that show's awesome.
Because I think that's a fantastic adaptation for the most part.
Colossus, do you not like it?
I liked the first 3 seasons, and then the entire writer's room left, and then it started making no sense at all.
So I still loved it through the entire season, like through the finale. But there is a clear, everybody's kind of dumb now, and characters are acting totally different when you hit season 4, because you could tell that the writers changed, I was warned about it, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. And then I was just like, there's a lot of like weird coincidences happening now, and like characters literally like arriving at scenes right as somebody else leaves. And I was like, why does this keep happening? Like this writing's very, very odd.
Well, but I did not notice it, and that's why I don't make reviews on TV shows, because I'm just like,
I still enjoyed it, but I mean, is this the same thing is happening? Like this isn't necessarily an adaptation anymore, but Vikings, I'm watching that now, and I'm like in season 4 of Vikings now. So like what, now that the cast is expanded and you're covering Wessex and Francia and all these
I
places?
thought you were talking about the new Netflix extension of Vikings, because I watched all of Vikings, but like there's also...
I have not seen Valhalla. Is it terrible?
I haven't watched it because it looks horrible.
Oh god.
Someone told me that it's actually good, and I was like, maybe I'll try it, but it looks bad.
It looks bad.
Even
it
Vikings
doesn't make any
like
sense, and the writing is just horrible.
And it doesn't have
absolutely horrible.
Lagertha, Ivar, or Ragnar, so why would I care?
Because it's like 100 years later, right? Is that the timeline?
I need to watch the original one. I've never watched it.
I feel like Vikings is very good until I think it's season 4 where they double the amount of show episodes. It's either season 4 or season 5. It goes from 10 to 20 episodes because they expanded the world and the cast so much. And I don't know if writers changed or not, but it went from, I mean, going from 10 to 20, it's like naturally the pacing is going to change. It's like that was a show that felt paced correctly and like very tight script wise. And you're really just focused in on like Ragnar and his family and his conquerors. And then it was just like, all right, now let's do all of these other things too. And it's like, okay,
that's a drastic.
Now you have to slow everything down and you have to drag things out. And
it's like
some of it's a little odd.
It's like that one time, I think it was Oz had to do like a 20 episode season for HBO because Sopranos were in like a lockout and they didn't make the season they were supposed to. So they're like, hey, Oz, we need you to do another season right now. And they're like, we don't have any ideas yet. And it's like the worst season of Oz.
It's like when you're in like a live show and they tell the pianist to just like keep playing.
Just do another one of those things.
Are there any other adaptations that we haven't talked? I mean, I want Shadow and Bone season 2, but like, there's nothing known about that yet.
Yeah. I mean, you've got Witcher season 3 that's going to be filmed. You've got, I'm sure, Wheel of Time season 2, and I think they already greenlit season 3.
Does that mean anything?
Greenlit season 3, and season 2 actually started filming before season 1 ended.
Yeah. They were awfully confident in that.
But with a different
excited about. Thank goodness I didn't watch it, so I don't have any stake in that.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't know what happened with what was his name that played Matt?
Well, the rumor, in case anyone watching this doesn't know, I did watch Wheel of Time. I'm just realizing like that may just be a joke to you guys. I did very much watch Wheel of Time.
I definitely didn't know that you did break
You
down
all know I did. I'm talking about the people watching this video who don't know who I am.
Gonna watch
like, why does she keep saying she hasn't seen Wheel of Time? No one cares. The guy who played Matt supposedly left when they stopped filming for COVID and just never came back. It's cited for
no one told him they started again.
No, it's
no one
called that energy.
No one wanted him back. He said, or at least officially, it's like mental health reasons. Like he wasn't doing well, and like I get it.
It was a little awkward when he just like got left out of the show.
Yeah, I feel
Matt.
I did have a lot of sympathy.
They show up on set when they start filming again. Like, wait, did nobody call Matt?
Did no one call Matt?
I'm remote.
I have a lot of sympathy, like I really do, for like how you would have to deal with that mid-season, and like when they'd already been so delayed because of COVID, they probably couldn't get another actor. Like I get it. I think they could have handled it a little better. Like I think they could have. I think there were ways to make it, better. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see him replaced. I actually really liked Barney Harris as Matt, so that's like a really tough.
He was the only part of the show that I liked.
Yeah,
he was literally like the one standout character,
and that was before I knew he was gone.
Yeah,
I knew before I started watching that he was gone, and I started watching it. I was like, he's the only part I like, and I already know he's not going to be in it after this, so why would I keep watching?
He also, with like pretty bad Matt scripting, like what they did to Matt, he managed to bring book Matt quite a bit. Like he's self-proclaimed was a fan. I believe that he was a fan. He did some really great work. So it's kind of like, it's just really tough.
It sucked too because I hated Matt for like 3 books. I didn't like him until Dragon.
I hated him for 5 books.
Yeah, you hate Matt for a long time, and then he gets awesome. And then on a reread, you're like, okay, I get it. I know where you're going. But he made Matt likable.
Yeah.
Even in an unlikable part, like a arc.
Well, he also seemed the most like a human who's experiencing things and living in a world and responding to the world around him instead of like an actor in a costume on a fantasy set.
I think part of that issue though is so this will be telling in whatever story they tell for Rings of Power is giving characters something to do. Because so much of the cast of Wheel of Time had nothing to do. They literally didn't have lines. Poor Perrin didn't talk for like 5.5 episodes. He just grunted. It's like, give this man something to say, please.
I mean, even Rand a little bit.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do.
There are a lot of bad choices in that show.
Yeah. Nothing else to be said.
So another anticipated adaptation.
Before we just roast Wheel of Time again.
Yeah, let's do it. When it comes out in November, should we just go on and roast?
I will absolutely watch it out of sheer curiosity, but I hated the finale to the point where I was like, this is literally so stupid.
But I'm honestly the most disappointed that not that many content creators decided to discuss the show. I was like so hoping for hours and hours of like Rise of Skywalker amounts of like content ripping it to shreds. And there were very few videos doing that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I did feel like the show wasn't so far away that it couldn't get back on track until I found out they started filming before the end of season 1. Because I was like, you did not know the response to that last episode. And so you had no idea that all those decisions you made in the last episode went like very poor. And so I don't know. And Rafe, any interview I read with him, he does not seem like he really cares what anyone thinks. Like I read this one interview, he was like, well, a lot of people are saying they didn't like that we made a Perrin, Egwene, Rand love triangle, but you know what? I like it. So we're going to keep doing it. And I was like,
cool, dude.
So glad you feel that way.
This is why he got eliminated from Survivor.
Not a team player.
I am interested though, because my whole shtick is like the differences between the show and the book. And I do sincerely wonder if there's going to be an episode where I'll have to be like, I can't really do this anymore. We have gotten so far from where we are.
How are you not already there?
It's not. It really isn't, is the thing. Like it really wasn't. It wasn't so far that I couldn't explain what was happening in the book.
Sure.
But there is a way that this goes next season that
I'm willing to bet halfway through season 2 you're going to get to that point.
Well, I know there are definitely like several people on the internet who like to see me descent into madness. So I think there's a lot of people who hope that I just slowly lose the will to live over the next season. So
Not that extreme.
we'll find out. No, there's this Reddit called White Cloaks. It's an intense Reddit. I do not belong to it, but my stuff got posted there a lot. So I got to see their discussion. And that was the place where they were like, it's hilarious watching this girl slowly lose faith in this adaptation. And I was like, great. Thanks, guys.
It's entertaining because halfway through season 2, you're just going to be on camera like, I can't anymore with this. It's so
It's
bad.
just going to be Hillary crying.
Alex, I'll have you on. You can watch it and we'll just talk about it. Maybe it'll make me feel better. Okay.
Because my goodness. And I'm not even like a massive Wheel of Time fan. I liked it. I loved parts of it. I also hated parts of it.
Klaus is now a massive Wheel of Time fan.
Oh yeah, I'm a mega fan of the books. They are like my favorite series ever.
Didn't you give the second one 5 stars or something absurd?
The second one, yeah, absolutely. That was my second most favorite of all the books. Totally.
There's already just going to be so many. I mean, we're just turning this into us not liking Wheel of Time, so I'll stop in a second. But there's already going to be so many problems with like how they're even going to start book 2 in the show that it's going to be nonsense.
This could be a fun idea. Out of everything we've talked about, what is everyone's prediction if we go around that what will be the most successful?
Lord of the Rings.
You mean successful in terms of money?
Financially or
like
financially?
How about most likely to see another season?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
For it, so there's no way that they are not gonna produce.
I changed my parameters. What show actually be good? How about that?
You mean like according to like fans and like the like quality
yes.
and viewers?
Yes.
Not like it made the
I should have thought my question out before I asked it.
I mean, it depends.
Like, what are we most excited for? Like, what's the show that we think is going to be
good?
The best.
I would think for us on the panel, it's not going to be either House of the Dragon or or Rings of Power. It'll probably be some other adaptation that we actually think is going to be like faithful to the source material and good. But like House of the Dragon, of like the main ones that are coming out, I think will be the best. But I feel like Rings of Power just has that, whether or not it has anything to do with Lord of the Rings. Hell, they might recast Legolas for some reason because they did that shit in Hobbit. Like, Lord of the Rings is a known commodity and everybody loves that original trilogy. So I feel like Amazon launching a big, high budget Lord of the Rings TV show, it's going to do crazy numbers. Everyone's going to tune in and watch it. And I think a general audience is going to eat it up because that's what they're going to cater to.
It's going to make the most money is my,
for sure.
Yeah, it's going to make the most money. I think House of Dragons is probably going to be the most like commercially successful in terms of like what people will say about it. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
And then for me personally, I just think Good Omens, in my opinion, has the best chance of something I will personally like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think House of Dragons, like everyone's still itching for Game of Thrones again.
I was gonna say like they're not still like everyone was soured on Game of Thrones and now everyone's like had a moment to recover and been like, you know what, I miss when Game of Thrones was good. I miss being excited for Game of Thrones. And so they're like, well, guess what, guys, we have some new Game of Thrones material for you.
Because it's not like the next Game of Thrones, it's literally another story in the universe.
I can't wait for the reviews that are like, this is gonna be the next Game of Thrones.
Well, as soon as you said, I forget who said this, but that the Lord of the Rings show and the new Game of Thrones show are coming out around the same time, my immediate thought was like, oh, great. Now we're going to get all these freaking articles comparing the two of them. Like, which one did a better job as a prequel series? And
oh, yeah, because they both are prequels. I didn't think about it like that way before, but yeah.
Might just
Rings of Power isn't. Rings of Power is made up, so.
But it's still like chronologically in terms of the world.
I know. Do you think Rings of Power is going to try to go super edgy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Yes.
Yeah, well, right? And then you're just like, did you read Tolkien? Do you know, like, there's sometimes
edgy by adding,
Hillary, this is the story Tolkien didn't tell. They didn't need to read anything.
You're right. They warned me. They warned me.
So Bezos does have a checklist. So Rings of Power, you have the forbidden love thing happening between an elf and then a non-elf. That's like they already talked up how they're gonna have sex and nudity. Like they're gonna
Just
put all
like
of this
the
adult
Silmarillion.
stuff in
Right.
that has nothing to do with anything Tolkien cared about. So it's like they're literally going to make a love story. They're going to have, I guess,
They
class
already
too.
did this in Hobbit when they had Tauriel and Keely.
Exactly,
as,
and
like,
that was-
And everybody loved that.
And-
so-
No, yeah. So
and
let's
that
do it
made no
again.
sense. It was bad. Like,
Can I read Jeff Bezos? He has 12 things that every Amazon show has to have because he believes that these are the 12 things that every successful show has.
Ooh.
Great.
oh, so
right,
he has a
Please
formula.
do.
Yeah, but I'm not kidding. He literally makes sure every single thing comes out of the studio has this. Okay, so number 1 is a heroic protagonist who experiences growth and change. Fair.
You don't
2.
have that in Lord of the Rings, so
2. Number 2 is a compelling antagonist, revolutionary. 3, wish fulfillment.
You mean for the audience or for
For the
guess?
protagonist
this
has
is for
hidden
Jeff Bezos
abilities
personally.
such as
feel fulfilled.
superpowers or magic. So he believes that the protagonist should have some sort of wish or like goal and that they should achieve it or get, having superpowers is what he has listed as an example.
Sick.
Number 4, moral choices. Number 5, diverse world building, different geographic landscapes. Number 6, urgency to watch next episode, cliffhangers. So every episode has to have a cliffhanger.
I mean, that can be
7,
said for most TV shows that are produced.
yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want them to watch the next one? But you can also do that without a cliffhanger.
You
To be
can.
fair.
If you're
Yeah,
invested
but a lot
in
of
the
shows
story,
do that.
no, tons of shows do that, but it sometimes gets tiring because you can tell people are trying to make. That's actually how I felt about Wheel of Time, to be honest. They were trying to make this cliffhanger, just make us care about the story. Anyway,
He
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it
specifically
feels
I
like
said,
didn't mean to interrupt you.
no,
it
you're
feels
fine.
like the fictionalized version of Ryan Seacrest being like, to find out who got voted off, stay tuned after the break. Like that same
For 8
gimmicky
breaks.
thing.
Yeah.
But it's in Wheel of Time because it's an Amazon show. Because it literally says cliffhangers is his example.
Yeah.
Number 7, civilizational high stakes, a global threat to humanity. This is on Yahoo News, and they have typos, guys. By the way, typos.
Yahoo! I'm
expect
sorry.
that
What? I
out
didn't
of
even know
Yahoo.
Yahoo News was still up.
Well, it shouldn't be because that's the 3rd misspelling I've seen on this list.
Do we actually believe Jeff Bezos said this then?
No,
I
I
didn't know it was
remember.
coming from Yahoo News.
I actually remember reading this. I think it was
Okay.
from. It's an excerpt from his book, which who wants to read
Yes.
that? But,
Okay.
You
so a
do.
global threat to humanity, like an alien invasion or a devastating pandemic. Wow, really original, Jeffy boy. Number
Aliens
8.
There is an
confirmed
alien
in Rings
invasion.
of
I'm
Power.
gonna
I mean, number 8's a spicy one. Humor. Number 9.
Where was the humor in Wheel of Time?
Did you see the CG? Number
Did you
9.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious when Perrin.
No spoilers. Yeah.
I did. I just
Something to do with the fridge in episode 1. That's all.
Oh, there's so many good jokes there.
I laughed out loud when that happened. I was like, "Oh my god!" Okay.
I was like, did that just happen?
Number
that's what we're
9
doing.
is betrayal.
Mm.
These are my
so
are
he's gonna
my
make it
favorite.
Game
The
of
last
Thrones.
3. The last 3 are the best. Are you ready? I'm gonna read them rapid fire.
Oh, god.
Number 10, positive emotions. Number 11, negative emotions.
Yes.
Those should be 1 point, Jeff. You dunce. And number 12, violence. What a goof. Shoot this man into space and don't let him come back.
Well, that would
Yeah.
be an alien invasion. That's one of the things on the list.
Oh,
Guys, I'm out. The Lord of the Rings of Power are gonna suck. It's gonna
I mean,
suck.
This is like one of the big things I have noticed a lot, mostly in TV adaptations, occasionally in writing, where people also just like have such a hard concept of what adult content means. Like they don't understand that there are perfectly clean books that I would not give a child because they would not have the life experience to understand.
No, it's very simple. You have to have boobs. You have to have sex scenes. You have to have a lot of blood.
and a
I
lot of
think
swearing.
that's it.
Sounds like my
That's
typical
all
Saturday.
adult things, sex, violence, swearing. Nothing about ideas or worldviews that may be hard to comprehend. I was just thinking of actually the 3 Body Problem, which I know not very many people have read, but it's this perfectly clean book. There might be like 1 F word in the whole thing, But it's such a book I would definitely not have understood as a teenager. I would not have understood the dark outlook that Liu has on humanity. I would not have understand. And as an adult, I just understand it so differently.
Well, I just feel like they have like confused or conflated adult as the target audience with adult as the censorship rating. Those are not the same thing.
Yes.
I just read this next paragraph and it is concerning.
Oh no, this is how he's going to turn into a villain, is reading this Jeff Bezos article.
This is insane. Listen, the confrontation with Price, who I guess runs the shows at Amazon, stemmed from Bezos' frustrations with the Amazon series Man in the High Castle, which I said was one of their good adaptations. According to the book, Jeff Bezos' books, Bezos called the execution terrible and asked during a meeting, why didn't you guys stop it? Why didn't you reshoot it? Amazon studio executives had to send Bezos regular updates on the projects in development that included spreadsheets describing how each show had storytelling elements. If any of the elements were missing, they had to explain why.
That is all 12 of those in one episode.
What a psycho!
I think I understand what happened to Wheel of Time now.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine
coming together.
Why didn't he just write his own thing? Like, I can't believe that.
But also, is Bezos? I thought he was just a shady billionaire. I didn't know that he ran shows. Like, so what? Who gives him the right?
So with Amazon Studios, he actually said one of his mission statements was to do adaptations. And he went to bat for The Expanse when it first went to Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi outbid him back then, which is insane. And then that's why he plucked it when they canceled it. Like he wanted The Expanse so bad. Which that's also, by the way, that's probably one of their best adaptations.
For the Man in the High Castle too, like back to a much earlier point about like not understanding that a quiet book about ideas should be made into an action, story. But sometimes that works. So like I don't know if anyone's read Man in the High Castle. I have.
I've never read it.
It's nothing like the show. Like it is like in essentials, like about how it's like an alternate history and who won and how the map was redrawn. Like that's the same. And like there's specific elements like within the story that they use to figure stuff out that's the same. But the book is like nothing like the show. It is one of those like ideas driven
Philip
books.
K. Dick writes bat-ass crazy ideas in book form.
Yeah. So like I do really think, I don't think there would be a way to make a good movie or show based on the book if you were trying to do it exactly like the book. So like that was a situation where like they actually did a really good job, I think, of making it like more
and the Three Body Problem does have ways to make it action that I think would be appropriate. It's just whether or not it loses the ideas within that or not. I think you can preserve ideas in an action movie, or you can let them go a la Ender's Game. Which is a book with a lot of ideas and action.
Alex's favorite book.
So sorry, Alex. I hated the adaptation. Did you love the adaptation or something? I hated it.
No, I hated the book.
Oh, okay, cool. That's fine. If you like the adaptation, we were gonna, I don't care.
No, the adaptation's garbage, and it's just a dumb kids movie. But the book is just a dumb kids book.
And it looked like that movie might have followed Jeff Bezos' ideas because, like, they added a romance and they added all that stuff because you apparently can't have a book without that.
Because that's what Ender's Game needed. It needed a romance at the heart of this violent children's academy where they train a bunch of psychopathic murderers to fight aliens. Yeah, we need a love story for this 9-year-old boy. Like, what?
Yeah, they aged him up to 12 in the show, but that made it
Thank God.
better for all. Because 12-year-olds need a romance.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you just made me feel like no Amazon show I'm ever going to like. So thanks, Jimmy.
I'm just trying to think though, like, did every episode of Good Omens hit those targets? I guess it must have if it got greenlit.
I wonder if some shows, like, you feel like, I don't know, Gaiman doesn't feel like a person who's going to be intimidated very easily. So there's a good chance, because they say some people, there are showrunners who push back against people like that. Like, you've heard them. You just talked about Pirates of the Caribbean. We've heard, in Kanto, this is a random example. I just randomly know this. Like, the artists push back really hard against Disney. So there are people who do that. And
Lilo and Stitch was one that had to fight to exist.
Oh, was it? Yeah. And Kanto didn't have to fight to exist. They just wanted Luisa to look like Isabella. And the artists really pushed back on that. And so I do feel like Gaiman might be someone who was like, no, we're not going to do that. So...
Yeah. And I'm Neil Gaiman,
and it's like, I just don't really care what you think. So he just strikes me as that kind of person. Like, I don't know, but
Like, excuse me, are you a living legend? No. Okay, great. So we're gonna go with my idea.
I don't think Good Omens had like almost any romance in it.
There's like the romance between
yeah.
and
yes, but that wasn't like in every episode or anything. No.
Thank goodness. I guess okay. Arguably, Aziraphale and Crowley were in every episode.
Right. But I wouldn't say that falls under Jeff Bezos like needs to have sex. That was more like a friendship sort of like romance thing. It's a little different. Jeff Bezos doesn't strike me as the person who watched that show and even understood that. So I don't know.
Or watched it at all.
Or watched it. Yeah.
He obviously knows every step to make a successful television show. It's pretty clear. So you guys need to bow down, respect.
I mean, really, honestly, like that list of stuff, it just sounds like the only show I can think of where like that was definitely applied and successfully applied is The Boys. Like that, all of the things on the list are in The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
But
every show,
negative emotion.
Every show can't be The Boys, and I wouldn't want every show to be The Boys. Like it's a
that's
very
the point,
specific kind of show.
That's what screams bad idea, right? Whenever you say everything must do these 12 things. I mean,
I'm excited to see a bunch of elves just swearing at each other and violently cutting people's heads off.
As I
Maybe
think
we'll see an orc romance.
Oh, they're totally going to
breaking new ground.
There are going to be morally gray orcs. It's going to be terrible.
There's going to be one morally gray orc. Every other one will be evil, but then this one will be the one.
Maybe we're the bad guys.
Klaus, is it too early in the morning for you to be hearing about Rings of Power?
It's never too late in the morning to hear about Rings of Power. But I swear to God, they have a female hobbit, and there has to be a reason why they expressly requested a female hobbit, because love triangle.
Dwarf.
With a dwarf and an elven, and we also have like Galadriel meeting that Numenorian ship sailor, whatever. So, and they're gonna be. I think their destinies are intertwined. I think they literally say that in the Vanity Fair article.
Yep.
And Celeborn is just like, okay, we've been married for like 1,000 years, but I'm just gonna be here in the background, and nobody's gonna talk to me because you have to lead the Northern Army and do awesome stuff. Because
Jeff Bezos says there's a list, and on the list it says that we have to have
negative emotion.
From an
alien invasion.
Maybe it comes from the viewer. Like maybe your negative emotion is fueling.
That's some meta level stuff. Yeah. I mean,
guys, there's an elf catching an arrow in slow motion and shooting it at somebody in the trailer. Like that's
I'm not gonna
that's
lie.
like Jeff watched.
That's literally Mulan, the Disney.
Jeff watched the Two Towers and was like, "You know what my favorite scene is? Legolas skateboarding down a set of stairs and shooting people with an arrow. Give me something cool." That's what happened.
Is he wrong?
But he also liked that scene in the final Hobbit movie when he was just jumping,
jumping up,
falling stones, and I was like, in the cinema, I was like, okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing, right? TV shows want to play by the rule of cool, and that's something commonly used in Dungeons and Dragons, and it's fine when you're playing in a game that doesn't need to have any narrative through line. But when your idea is the rule of cool, this I think happened in episode 8 of Wheel of Time, then it just breaks everything. So like, you want memeable moments. You want people being like, "Oh, that's so cool." But if it doesn't have any
to the
through
Star Wars
line,
sequel trilogy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just, you got to have a narrative through line. It just can't be, let's make cool things happen. It just doesn't work for
well, also with a lot of those things, it's like, the moments in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, when you had like a cool moment like that, it wasn't all the time. And it did kind of really stand out. And it made people go, actually, like when Legolas takes care of that entire Oliphant in Return of the King, like that's badass. But it's also not like 4 hours of constantly people doing crazy, cool, unlikely things. So when you have a moment like that, then it stands out and people remember it. And you can't have a studio being like, "Great, 4 hours of that, please." Like, that's not how that works.
Yep. Are we allowed to talk about Obi-Wan? Is that like sort of like an adaptation because it comes from Star Wars?
I mean, we've talked about a lot of things that are not technically adaptations, so I don't know why you're asking now.
Well, I'm so nervous about it because I just really like Ian McGregor as Obi-Wan, and I just really just don't want that show to suck. And I think there's like a 50-50 chance.
How do you feel about everything that's happened in the Star Wars universe since the original movies?
Well,
so what you're telling me, I will.
Good.
Do you feel good about it?
That's a lot of material.
I am an eternal optimist, and
do you like The Mandalorian?
Like that, I did like The Mandalorian.
I was like, there was like a meme of like
fine.
you and
did I love The Mandalorian? No. Did I like it?
What about the Book of Boba Fett?
I did not watch it because Zach watched it and said, "You will be so bored by this. Don't waste your time." He just can't get me to watch a lot of TV, so he has to like pre-watch TV and then be like, "Trust me, it's worth your time." And this, he was like, "You're I'm gonna lose you." So there's just really no point.
I feel like the issue with the Obi-Wan is I think that's been like the most talked about like version of doing this forever.
Yeah, the expectation.
And I feel like it should have happened a long time ago.
Solo was really bad. It's actually my least favorite movie of the entire Star Wars universe, which I think is
okay. I agree.
Oh, good. I thought you could get mad at me.
Thanks.
But also, like, didn't that suffer from one of those things where, like, they originally shot one kind of movie and then had some other director and other screenwriter take it over and completely change it and, like, make it not what it was before?
That happens all the time.
The thing about the most about that movie is that they felt like they had to explain everything. Like, the scene that made me so angry.
Prequels?
Well, yeah, let's explain how Chewbacca gets his nickname Chewie. We didn't need an explanation. Like, we got it. You know what I mean? Like, people just shorten names. It's not. It's
so you know that they're going to do.
But here's the issue:
do that with everything.
Solo is so mid. It's bland. At least with the prequels, like they're terrible.
They make choices,
but they're also like there's things in them that you can get enjoyment out of because they're so stupid that they're funny.
And they are sincerely trying to tell a story, like in the prequels.
And I will say, like, I saw the first one as a 10-year-old, and as a 10-year-old, that movie rocked. I didn't like Jar Jar Binks even as a 10-year-old because I had a little bit of respect, but like pod racing was awesome to me as a 10-year-old. As a 10-year-old, like pod racing. Now as an adult, it's like okay, but.
Also, the Duel of the Fates, there's never been anything cooler than that.
That is true.
Yeah, there was like a lot of really cool stuff in it. But like Solo isn't a kid movie, but nor is it for adults. Like we don't like it either. And that's where like I think just like at least the prequel, they went camp and they went with it, you know? Like at least it was a choice.
And then you have, like Ewan McGregor again. Like he's great in those movies. Like his lines are terrible, but like him as himself. Is
he's a charismatic actor, so he can pull it off.
Mace Windu, I can't remember his name right now.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel Jackson. I mean, the famous person.
He is more known as Mace Windu than Samuel L. Jackson.
He is not. My mind literally blanked. Samuel L. Jackson is like a legend. Is a legend. I mean, there was actually a lot of them. I mean, Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, there was just a lot of good.
I think I saw a meme that was like Ewan McGregor coming to help Pedro Pascal hold up the entire weight of the Star Wars.
I mean, pretty much. Because if you think about it, so Phantom Menace came out in 99. And in 99 and like early 2000s, everyone was like, please, can we get some kind of like Obi-Wan spinoff with Ewan McGregor? Yeah. It's 2022 and it's happening. Yeah. But like, I feel like Star Wars is being milked for all it's worth to the point that I'm just like, personally, I just don't care anymore. Like another new Star Wars show is coming out. Cool. Like I'm sure it'll be fine.
Star Wars was just like, I was such a Star Wars nerd as a kid, like so into it. It gets so hard to just understand that it's dying. Like it's just so hard to realize that it just hasn't really been good since
it's kind of like trilogy. Fantastic Beasts movies killing Harry Potter.
No, I've told you, Leanna, those do not exist in my world purview.
The thing that's interesting to me about Star Wars, like just like interesting, it's not really, it's more of a negative, but it's like before Disney, they had all this supplementary material that existed that only like massive nerds like myself would go and read.
Me too.
And then now they're making the supplementary material like a core part of the universe, and they're gonna run into the same issue, which they already have, that those ran into, which is like some of them just suck because nobody gives a shit.
Or there's just there's not enough there, like because intentionally there's not enough context there. Like it's a little cool detail that someone might find. But now you have studios that want to say, okay, let's take that little thing and then make it a Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah,
and
it's
like, that doesn't
over
work for everything.
explaining. Like the
Yeah.
two.
Like,
Here-
I was also considering watching Book of Boba Fett, and I wasn't decided yet. And I saw all these like videos coming up, like analysis of like what it did right and what it did wrong, and I was like, oh, I really want to watch that, but I haven't quite decided not to watch Book of Boba Fett yet. And then I talked to my brother and watched some of those, and I will definitely not be watching the Book of Boba Fett. But a lot of them talked about how like it's like really shady that Disney made the Book of Boba Fett when it's not actually a story by itself. Like you have to,
No,
it's just like if
lore
you.
dump.
And they're basically saying if you want to keep watching The Mandalorian, then you have to watch the Book of Boba Fett because it's gonna have like 2 episodes in there that are straight up just a sequel to The Mandalorian, and like that's disingenuous. You know, like make a show about Boba Fett if that's what you're gonna do. Like do that thing.
Well, and to
But that's-
Jenna's point, sorry.
I was gonna say that's an issue with like taking a tiny thing that people think is cool and trying to make an entire show around it. Boba Fett didn't even speak. Like he was just like a cool guy in armor. I was just like, hey, that guy's a badass. What a cool
And that
character.
was
Well, it's kind of
enough.
like
Sometimes
when-
that's enough.
Yeah.
And I always bring this up about Ridley Scott, like trying to over-explain aliens. Like,
Oh
you
my
don't
God.
have to. Like, don't just keep making movies trying to explain.
Am I the only person who likes
origins of villains.
Prometheus? I like
Yes.
Prometheus.
You're the only
I
one.
enjoyed
Wow.
Prometheus, but it's not good. Like I enjoyed watching the film,
I like
but it's not
I
good.
don't have any problem with it.
To Jenna's point earlier, the other thing is like super Star Wars nerds will read a book that's only mediocre and be like, that was fun. But you don't
Right.
want to see that in like you have like I have different expectations going into those sorts of things, and you don't want that into an adaptation. But also like I'm just constantly baffled that they feel like they have to keep doing Skywalker stuff or Boba Fett or Obi-Wan. Even like this is a universe that has
Right.
Jedi and lightsabers. That is cool. Make a completely new, different story. Like it's so.
I don't feel like they
messy.
can. So if you watch Red Letter Media, because I'm not gonna act like this. I'm not gonna act like this is my point. I was literally rewatching some of their Star Wars reviews, and they brought up that exact point where if you think about it, the Star Wars universe seems like it would be massive and endless, but it's actually very small because every time that you go to make a Star Wars movie or show, you have to have lightsabers, TIE fighters, AT-ATs,
Although this
stormtroopers,
is where though, like
Skywalkers.
the prequels, even though they were about Skywalkers, like they felt like they expanded. They were new locations in the prequels. It felt like where we're doing new things in the universe of Star Wars. Like it felt bigger and different. Like it wasn't just trying to be the original trilogy again. It felt like it was going to do its own thing. And so
For
like
better
it made,
or for
yeah, for better or
worse.
for worse. So like I respect that it was like sincerely trying to tell its story, sincerely trying to do new and different things, and like not always great, but like it had
But
a
I mean,
vision.
what if we go back, way before prequels or whatever? I mean, I haven't read a ton of the extended universe, so like I might say something ignorant here, and I apologize to the better Star Wars fans than me. But like, do like Jedis are cool. So do some like drama in the Jedi Temple or whatever, like before everything went down. It doesn't have to be some grand universe scale. Like that's where the sequels failed so much for me. Trying to redo this universe scale where they have the Star Killer base, like which was just a total redo of the Death Star. Do something small. Not everything has to be
more guns.
Yeah, interplanetary conflict.
Yeah.
There could be interesting stories. Like, I mean, I read these really. Jenna, have you read Jedi Apprentice?
Yes.
Prequel? Okay, great.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Those were like my favorite books. I still have them all actually on the shelf up there. Like those were a lot of just kind of like interpersonal conflicts. They were not universe-wide conflicts. And I think like the Star Wars universe, if it wants to keep going, needs to maybe work on just like inventing new characters that have never been seen before. And I just think there's a lot. Like this might hit Game of Thrones even. I don't really know. I haven't like read it, but I wonder if like there's at some point in a universe where you need to stop tying everything together to tell a new story.
Well, I think that's why The Mandalorian was so successful to begin with, because it was just like, adventure of the week, just doing its own thing. We're not talking about an apocalypse. It's just like a dad and his adopted baby alien kid just taking care of paying bills and fixing the ship and just having their little adventures. Like more of that, please.
Work that into everything else too. And like, all these characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be a secret Skywalker somewhere.
Right.
It's gonna happen.
Well,
Just like
I can't
there's
wait for
secret
the day that
Targaryens.
Star Wars has a secret Targaryen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's Luke. Luke is the
Luke is a secret
Targaryen.
Targaryen. Absolutely. Well, on that note, any other adaptations we want to touch on? Honorable.
Did we think
mentions?
this video was going to be so negative? Like, did we
Yes.
expect? Okay.
Because
Just
we're book
checking.
nerds, so we're just like immediately skeptical about, you're going to try to make a movie of this. the book was better. I haven't seen it yet, but the book was better.
The same thing happened when we talked about Wheel of Time, and it just quickly went off a cliff into like, hey, let's just trash this for an hour and a half.
Negative content does well on YouTube, so
yeah, well, we'll just have to
going back to charity.
We'll have to reconvene to trash Rings of Power. I mean, to review Rings of Power.
It's gonna be great.
We're gonna feel so stupid and silly when it comes out, and it's the best show.
I hope it's dope. That'd be sweet.
Yeah,
I'll be happy.
I'm willing to be proven wrong.
I will never go into anything with my arms crossed. It's not not how I'm wired. I can't do it.
I will. But
the only way to protect yourself against the badness.
No, it's true because like I told people a lot, like it was making me so angry. Back to your earlier point, Jimmy, when people were getting so mad about Wheel of Time before it came out. Now I ended up disliking it, but I was mad. I was like, okay, we've seen 3 minutes of the show. Everybody, give it a full season. Let's watch it, and then we can say it's bad. So like, I'm not going to judge Rings of Power before I at least see a few episodes. I will go into it with the same optimism, Jimmy.
Yeah.
All right.
I even thought the fact that they weren't showing us anything in Wheel of Time outside of like 4-second clips, I was like, that is an issue. I was like, why are they not showing us anything? And then they finally did show us the trailer, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm actually in. This is going to be cool. And then the show happened.
And they dumpstered you.
Well, I apply to adaptations the same philosophy I apply to life. Expect the worst, hope for the best.
That's all you can do.
Unless you're Jimmy, and then you hope for the best, and don't expect the worst.
I don't know. I just approach everything kind of even kilter if I can. I mean, I want to like things. That's the problem. I like liking things. Like that's just.
I do too. It's just the disappointment is less bitter when you go in prepared for it.
I think Bookborn is turning me into an optimist. This is what's happened.
Hey, see, this is great. Have we swapped? Are you slowly?
I might be, and honestly, you sound pretty pessimistic right now.
Yeah. I did one live like about Grimdark, and now all of a sudden my outlook is bad.
Here we are.
That's my optimism.
And now I'm a ray of sunshine. Clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. If there are no other adaptations or adaptation adjacent things that we want to talk about, then I think that'll do it. Yes. Thanks everybody for coming to chat. It's been great as always. And we'll see you all next time.